I purchased my grandparents' house, and my sister assumed that I would hand it over to her. So she decided that the best thing to do was to fight me, and because of that, she now cannot set foot in her dream home. My wife and I recently bought our dream house, and it's caused a lot of tension within the family. Years ago, my grandparents owned the family home, but after they passed away suddenly, their medical debt forced us to sell it. It was heartbreaking, and as a child, I promised myself that one day I would buy the house back. I even shared this dream with my sister. I met my wife when I was 18 and she was 21. Her parents owned a small rental that they let her live in rent-free, only having to cover the expenses. After a year together, she invited me to live with her, and a year later, we got married. I told her about my dream of owning my grandparents' house, and she was fully supportive. We started saving a significant amount of money, hoping the house wouldn't go on the market before we could afford it. Since we didn't pay rent and both had good jobs, we managed to save a large sum. My in-laws also contributed $75,000 for the down payment, and in total, we saved about $185,000. 20 years after my grandparents passed, the house finally went back on the market at a high price. The property is large, with 6 bedrooms, a lakefront view, a pool, and a guest house. My sister and her husband were also house hunting, but with a smaller budget, as they had children, student debt, and had been renting for years. When the house was listed, I sent the link to my sister, excitedly telling her we were getting it back into the family. She seemed happy, and my wife and I moved forward with the purchase, visiting the owners and making an offer, which was accepted. Throughout this process, my sister expressed excitement about the house being back in the family, mentioning how nice it would be for her children to experience it as we did. However, she never mentioned any plans to move into the house herself, so I didn't think much of her comments. After we closed on the house, we had a barbecue at my parents' place to celebrate. During the dinner, my mother-in-law offered to kennel our dogs while we moved, and that's when my sister spoke up. She questioned why our dogs needed to be watched and suggested that her kids needed supervision more than our dogs. Confused, I told her we didn't need help with packing. My sister then asked why we would be packing, which puzzled me further. After some back and forth, it became clear that my sister believed we were buying the house to either rent to her family or eventually transfer ownership to her. She was shocked and angry when I told her this wasn't happening. She felt it wasn't fair that only one of us could live out this dream, especially since she had children who deserved to grow up in the family home. My wife firmly stated that it was our home now, and we would decide what to do with it. My sister responded by telling my wife to shut up and dismissing her opinion, which led me to warn her that if she spoke to my wife that way again, we would cut off contact. After leaving, my in-laws were supportive, but my parents were upset, feeling that we had taken away my sister's dream. They believed it was only fair to set up a way for her to have the house, given that we could afford to find something else. Even some distant relatives sided with my sister, making the situation feel surreal and upsetting. We've since changed the locks on the house and are staying on the property in a camper trailer provided by my in-laws. I tried to arrange a meeting with my family to discuss the situation. When we met, my parents initially believed my sister's story that we had agreed to rent the house to her, but once I showed them the text messages and lack of any agreement, they realized the truth. My sister then arrived and, unable to provide evidence of her claims, admitted she felt it was unfair that we had everything handed to us. She tried to guilt trip us, but we made it clear she needed to apologize before we could consider having a relationship with her. Currently, our relationship with my parents is strained, and we're hesitant to accept their help with moving or renovations. We've decided not to give any family members a spare key to the house, except for my wife's parents. To secure our estate, we're meeting with an estate planner to make sure everything is properly documented, with plans to leave the property to my sister-in-law and her kids, with my mother-in-law as the executor.